lived with 5 different people before I got to my mother. I just started thinking about it, those thoughts, and I've learned a lot just from recording it.
At 91 years old, the last surviving cast member of Gilligan's Island, the legendary Tina Louise, finally decided to break her silence.
Some of the feelings that I had that I never explored because I was so used to pushing it all down. It was just a really bad place. It was like a prison.
Now, if you grew up watching Gilligan's Island, you probably remember Tina as Ginger, the glamorous movie star with the killer wardrobe, perfect hair, and that Hollywood sparkle. But behind the scenes, things weren't so glamorous. For decades, Tina's stayed quiet. But now, that silence is over. She's opening up about how the network treated her. Stay with me, because once Tina Louise starts talking, you won't want to miss a single second of what she says next. Tina Louise's unexpected journey to Gilligan's Island. Tina Louise's journey to Gilligan's Island was indeed unexpected. Prior to that phase of her life, Tina Louise was doing her thing on Broadway, right? She's out there just owning the stage in this big musical hit called Fade Out, Fade In, with none other than Carol Burnett, the legendary comedy queen herself. Tina's already got that spark, that magnetic kind of glow you can't ignore. She's got that fiery red hair, a voice full of confidence, and she's walking around like she knows exactly who she is. And why shouldn't she? This wasn't some newbie waiting for her big break. This was Tina Louise, a seasoned actress who had already dipped her toes into the world of film and even snagged a Golden Globe for God's Little Acre. So, she was already someone in the industry. People respected her. She was serious about her craft. Broadway wasn't just a stop on the way, it was her lane. Now, here's where the story takes an interesting turn. One night after a performance, she's backstage winding down, maybe touching up her makeup or sipping on some water, and boom, TV producers show up, out of the blue. And not just any producers. These were the folks working on a brand new comedy show, one that would later go on to become one of the most iconic sitcoms of all time. Gilligan's Island. They looked at her and instantly saw the Ginger Grant. That was it. The glamour, the confidence, the screen presence, she had it all. And they were relentless. They knew what they wanted, and what they wanted was her. Tina remembered that moment clearly. So you thought Gilligan's Island was all sunshine, coconut radios, and harmless fun? Well, Tina Louise just dropped a bombshell at 91 years old. And let's just say, not everything was smooth sailing behind the scenes. What really went down on that tiny island set? Stick around, because what Tina just revealed changes everything you thought you knew about this classic show. In an interview she gave years later, she said, "I was doing Broadway with Carol Burnett in Fade Out, Fade In when they came backstage to see me." That's how it all started. They basically saw her as the walking, talking embodiment of old-school Hollywood glamour, and they weren't about to take no for an answer. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Tina didn't just leap at the offer. No, not even close. In fact, she hesitated. A lot. See, when they pitched the role to her, they painted a very different picture of what Ginger would be. They said she'd be elegant, sophisticated, a woman with depth. This wasn't just about eye candy or playing the pretty girl on an island. No, this was supposed to be a character with layers, someone clever and stylish who happened to be stuck on a deserted island. And the show? It wasn't going to be a slapstick comedy at all. They told her it would be more grounded, a story about 7 people seriously trying to survive and get off the island. Can you believe that? That's the show they were selling her on. So, of course, Tina, being the thoughtful, deliberate actress that she was, started weighing her options. She wasn't just some pretty face trying to make it big. She had a background in serious acting, had studied under the legendary Uta Hagen, and she genuinely cared about the roles she took. That's why the idea of being typecast scared the life out of her. Would playing Ginger trap her in the sexy redhead box forever? Would Hollywood ever take her seriously again? It's something a lot of actresses in that era had to worry about, and for Tina, it was very real. And don't forget, back then, television wasn't this glamorous, A-list arena it is today. It was still kind of seen as a step down from film, like the place you went when your movie career hit a wall. Her agent warned her about that exact thing. He was like, "Look, if you do this TV thing, don't be surprised if the film offers dry up." Yikes! That's a scary gamble for anyone to take, especially someone who had just been in Paris making movies and living this dreamy European artist life. Can you blame her for being skeptical? So what changed her mind? Well, it wasn't just the flattery or the fame. No, Tina was way too grounded for that. What tipped the scales was this little thing the producers promised her. They said the show would only last 6 months. 6 months? That's it. A short-term gig, in and out. No long-term commitment. That sounded doable. Harmless, even. Like something she could squeeze in before heading back to more serious roles. And let's be real, the steady paycheck didn't hurt either. Theater and film can be a bit unpredictable, but a TV series, that was reliable income, at least for a while. So she signed on. She thought she was making a small detour, a fun little experiment, maybe a break from the heavier stuff. What she didn't realize was that she was walking into the role that would define her in the public eye for the rest of her life. Ginger Grant became a cultural icon, an image burned into the collective memory of TV fans everywhere. And Tina? Well, she would forever be known as the movie star of Gilligan's Island, whether she liked it or not. Creative conflicts and character struggles. Tina Louise was excited when she agreed to play Ginger Grant on Gilligan's Island. But then, right from the get-go, everything started going sideways. You know how sometimes you think you're signing up for one thing, and then you show up and it's a whole different vibe? That's what happened to Tina. She had been told Ginger would be this glamorous, lovable bombshell, kind of like a mashup of Lucille Ball's charm and Marilyn Monroe's allure. You know, flirty, funny, magnetic. The kind of character audiences would adore instantly. But then she got to the set, took a look around, talked to the director, and her jaw basically hit the floor. Why? Because the director had a completely different idea. He wanted Ginger to be this sarcastic, almost cold figure, not at all the warm, glamorous persona Tina had been promised. Can you imagine how frustrating that must have been? You sign up for this shiny, sparkling character, only to find out they want to turn her into someone kind of mean and unlikable? Tina was not having it. Like, at all. In her own words, she flat out said, "I didn't even want to work on it anymore." That's how upset she was. And honestly, who could blame her? She felt like the whole premise of the show, this fun, endearing cast of castaways, would be completely thrown off if Ginger became this harsh, disconnected figure. And here's where it gets even juicier. She was so distressed, she actually went straight to the top. No messing around. Tina arranged a meeting with the head of CBS, which is not something you do unless you're really passionate about your stance. And in that meeting, she laid it all out. She basically told the exec, "Look, this character isn't what I was promised, and I don't think viewers are going to relate to someone who's all dolled up but has a bad attitude." And you know what? She made such a compelling argument that the head of CBS agreed with her. Like, actually agreed. It's not every day that a big network suit takes an actor's side over a director's. So what happened next? The original director was let go after just a month. And who do they bring in? None other than Richard Donner, who would later go on to direct blockbusters like The Goonies and Superman. That's a pretty major glow-up, right? Under Donner's direction, things finally started to click. The writers revamped the scripts to align more closely with Tina's vision of Ginger, a glamorous, sweet, and funny woman who audiences would root for. And let's be real, that version of Ginger is the one people remember and love today. So in a way, Tina kind of saved the show from derailing itself before it even got off the ground. But oh, the drama didn't end there. Even with the new director and the retooled scripts, tensions lingered on set. One moment in particular stuck with Sherwood Schwartz, the show's creator. There was this day when Tina just flat out refused to film a scene. No one could quite figure out why. It was like she just hit a wall and said, "Nope, not doing it." So Schwartz, being the creator and all, decided to step in and talk to her directly. He goes over to her dressing room, which, by the way, she had completely isolated herself in, and tries to smooth things over. Now this is where it gets really weird. He explains how important the scene is, how it ties into the whole episode, hoping she'll just say, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." But instead, Tina looks at him and goes, "Would you have my dressing room painted gray?" Like, what? That's the response? Not, "Let's rewrite the lines," or "I need a break," but a request about the paint color of her dressing room. Total curveball. Schwartz was baffled. He didn't even know what to say. It was one of those moments where you just go, "Wait, what is even happening right now?" But somehow, despite all of this behind-the-scenes tension, the clashing visions, the high-stakes meetings, the strange dressing room demands, the scene got filmed. The show carried on. And the public? They had no idea. All they saw was this funny, silly, heartwarming sitcom about 7 stranded people just trying to get by. They didn't see the battles that were fought just to make sure Ginger was portrayed the right way, or how close Tina came to walking away completely. Isn't it crazy how much can go on behind the scenes without us ever knowing? Looking back, it's clear that Tina Louise wasn't just being difficult, she was fighting for the integrity of a character she believed in. And thank goodness she did, because Gilligan's Island wouldn't have been the same without her version of Ginger. So next time you see her strutting across the beach in that iconic dress and giving that signature smile, just remember, it took a lot of back and forth, a fired director, and maybe even a little gray paint to make that moment happen. Kinda makes you look at old reruns a little differently, doesn't it? We've waited decades to hear it. And now, at 91, Tina Louise finally opens up about the truth behind Gilligan's Island. And no, it's not what you think. Was there jealousy? Secret feuds? You'll want to hang tight for this one, because her final words about the cast might just leave your jaw on the floor. Tensions behind the scenes. Behind those goofy island antics and all the coconut radios, things on set were far from sunshine and smooth sailing. You know how the show always gave off that laid-back, let's laugh our troubles away kind of vibe? Well, behind the scenes, it was a whole different story, especially when it came to Tina Louise, the actress who played Ginger, the glam movie star. And trust me, the drama didn't need a script. So here's the tea. While most of the cast was getting along like old college buddies, laughing between takes, cracking jokes, bonding like one big happy shipwrecked family, Tina? No, she was off by herself, almost all the time. Like literally. According to folks who visited the set, the rest of the crew would be gathered around, joking and chatting it up like it was summer camp, and Tina would just be sitting alone, not joining in, not laughing along, just separate. And this wasn't just some "I need a minute to myself" kind of thing. This was consistent. It was her thing. And people noticed. Now, why was she like that? Was she shy? Was she having a bad day that just happened to last for 3 seasons? Well, not quite. Word is, Tina wasn't exactly thrilled about being on the show in the first place. Yes, she reportedly thought the show was beneath her. Imagine that, being stuck on a sunny island set, surrounded by lovable characters and feeling like you're trapped in a bad career move. That's rough. She had dreams of being a serious actress, taking on gritty roles, dramatic stuff, the kind that wins awards and gets people whispering your name at film festivals. So, ending up as the sexy movie star in a slapstick comedy sitcom. Not exactly her vision board. Russell Johnson, who played the always inventive professor, later said her behavior puzzled the cast. Like everyone was just vibing. And then there was Tina, this glamorous, aloof figure floating through the scenes like she wasn't really there. And Dawn Wells, sweet, down-to-earth Mary Ann, even said that Tina kept her distance long after the cameras stopped rolling. Can you believe that? Dawn even tried reaching out years after the show ended like, "Hey, we were stranded together for 3 seasons, let's catch up." And Tina still wouldn't budge. She basically acted like Gilligan's Island never happened. Who does that? Now here's where things get even juicier. Rumors started floating around about a serious tension between Tina Louise and Bob Denver, aka Gilligan himself. And this wasn't just a small "we don't really vibe" kind of thing. No, this was deep. Like awkward tension you could feel in the room. People on set noticed it. Reporters mentioned it. And the wild part? Neither of them ever publicly explained what went down. No interviews, no passive-aggressive quotes, nothing. They just iced each other out. According to reports, when photographers asked them to pose together, Bob Denver flat-out refused. Can you imagine that level of frostiness? You're co-starring on a show, and you won't even stand next to your castmate for a photo? That's not just bad vibes, that's full-on beef. And the rest of the cast? They didn't talk about it much either. It was like an unspoken rule. Don't bring it up. Don't ask. Don't tell. Everyone just kind of worked around the tension. They ignored her, she ignored them, and the show went on. Like a group project in school, where one person doesn't do their part, and nobody calls them out, they just finish it without them. But you have to wonder, was Tina really the villain here? Or was she just deeply unhappy, stuck in a role she didn't want, and unable to fake the camaraderie that everyone else was feeling? Maybe she felt boxed in, like she couldn't stretch her wings as an artist. Or maybe she just didn't click with the group. You know how that is. Sometimes, no matter how nice everyone is, you just don't mesh. But whatever the case, it created this huge emotional distance that never really went away. Now, we know that behind all the shipwreck jokes and slapstick hijinks, Gilligan's Island had its own storm brewing off camera. And at the center of that storm, a glamorous redhead who never quite felt like she belonged, and made sure everyone knew it. Isn't it wild how something that looked so fun and easy on the outside could be so chilly and tense behind the scenes? Makes you see the show in a whole new light, doesn't it? Contract disputes and top billing issues. The kind of drama you'd expect from a reality show, not a silly little sitcom about being stranded. That was exactly the vibe on Gilligan's Island. And at the center of it all, Tina Louise, aka Ginger, the glamorous movie star of the group. Now, don't get it twisted, Tina wasn't throwing drinks or flipping tables, but her contract? Oh, that thing stirred up more drama than a broken radio on the island. You see, from day one, her contract demanded that she get top billing. Yes, she had it written in stone that her name had to be front and center. Big, bold, beautiful. It's like she wanted everyone watching at home to know, this show? Yeah, I'm the star. Now, here's where it gets even messier. Because of that contractual demand, the now iconic theme song, the one we all know and hum for no reason, didn't actually mention all the cast members at first. Can you believe that? In the beginning, poor Marianne, played by Dawn Wells, and the professor, played by Russell Johnson, were just thrown under the vague label, "and the rest." Like, excuse me? And the rest? That's like inviting someone to a party and then referring to them as +1 the whole night. So rude, right? It was a total slap in the face. But guess who wasn't having it? Bob Denver, our beloved Gilligan himself. And let me tell you, he was not just a klutzy sweetheart on screen. He had a backbone in real life, too. Bob actually went to the producers and said something along the lines of, "If you don't give Marianne and the professor the credit they deserve, then I want my name moved behind Tina's." Like, talk about standing up for your friends. Can we get a round of applause for Bob? So finally, they fixed it. They reworked the theme song and started including all 7 castaways in the credits. Problem solved, right? Ha! Not even close. Because even though that little skirmish over the credits got resolved, the bad blood, oh, it lingered. It simmered like an overcooked pot of coconuts on that imaginary island. Tina Louise, bless her heart, never really clicked with the rest of the cast. She felt out of place, and truthfully, she kind of acted like it too. Some say she thought the show would focus more on her character and less on, you know, everyone else. And over the years, things didn't exactly mellow out. In fact, they just got more complicated. Every time they tried to put together a reunion movie or some kind of special, guess who was the lone holdout? Yep, Tina. She just wouldn't do it. And the sad part is, those reunions weren't just for nostalgia or fan service, they were real paychecks for the rest of the cast. But with Tina refusing to participate, a lot of those projects got shelved or never happened at all. And that meant lost money for the others, people who, unlike her, wanted to show up and reconnect with fans, and maybe, just maybe, enjoy a little of that magic again. Can you imagine how frustrating that must have been? To want to keep something alive, only to be blocked by one person's refusal to play ball. It's one of those situations that's so ironic, you almost have to laugh. Because the show was all about 7 people stranded together, relying on each other, building a little island society. But in real life, not so much. The unity was only surface deep. The friendships, some were real, like the bond between Bob Denver, Dawn Wells, and Russell Johnson. But others? Let's just say they were as fake as that papier-mâché volcano they used in Season 2. And at the center of a lot of that friction, whether she meant to be or not, was Tina. It's kind of sad, really. Maybe she didn't realize the impact of her decisions. Maybe she thought she was just protecting her image or standing her ground. Or maybe, just maybe, she really didn't care. Who knows? But whatever her reasons were, the fallout affected everyone around her. And even decades later, when people would talk about the show, the behind-the-scenes tension always came up like a bad penny. Fans who adored Ginger on screen would be shocked to hear about all the drama she was tied to off-camera. Because, let's be honest, it's always a bit jarring when the glamorous character you loved turns out to be the source of so much tension. But that's Hollywood for you, right? The sparkly surface hides all kinds of messy stuff underneath. And honestly, This whole saga just goes to show how something as small as where your name appears in the credits can blow up into years of resentment and missed opportunities. So next time you hum that catchy little "The Movie Star" part of the theme song, maybe spare a thought for Mary Ann and the professor, and the battles they didn't even ask for but had to endure anyway. And maybe tip your imaginary sailor hat to Bob Denver too, for being the kind of guy who stood up for his castmates when it really counted. Because at the end of the day, fame fades, reruns come and go, but those little behind-the-scenes choices, they leave a mark, sometimes a lasting one. What if the happiest-looking show on TV actually had one of the most dramatic sets behind the scenes? At 91, Tina Louise is finally spilling the truth. Don't even think about skipping this, because what she reveals at the very end is the part no one saw coming, looking back. Tina Louise at 91. Tina Louise is now 91. And let me tell you, the way she looks back on her time as Ginger, it's honestly kind of beautiful and really, really touching. You know how sometimes we only appreciate certain parts of our life when we're way past them? That's exactly what happened here. Tina didn't always love being tied to Gilligan's Island, and for a long time, she actually avoided talking about it. Can you imagine being known all over the world for one thing, but secretly wishing people would see the rest of you? That was her for decades. But over time, and this is the part that gets me, her feelings started to soften. Like, seriously soften. There's this quote from her that just makes you go, "Ah," she said, "I always enjoyed my work. And I enjoyed the part, especially once Richard Donner stepped in as director. And that's such a turnaround from how she used to brush off any mention of the show. You can really tell that the years gave her some peace with it all. And here's what really changed everything for her. Get ready, because this part might hit you in the feels. So, Sherwood Schwartz, the show's creator, shared this one story that basically shifted Tina's whole mindset. A fan came up to her and told her how his wife's dying husband only found comfort in watching Ginger's scenes during his final days. Like, that was the only thing that brought him peace. Can you imagine hearing that? Knowing that your work, something you maybe didn't even realize had such depth, helped someone in their final moments? Tina was deeply moved. And honestly, who wouldn't be? That kind of moment? It hits differently. It's not just about fame or being recognized in public. It's about being part of someone's healing, their goodbye, their joy in the darkest time. And after that, her whole attitude toward the show kind of melted into something warmer, more grateful. Isn't it funny how one genuine encounter can change your whole outlook? And okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why didn't Tina Louise ever show up to any of those Gilligan's Island reunion specials? People always thought it was because she hated the show, or worse, the cast. But that's just not true. Not even a little bit. The truth? She was just busy. Like really busy. The woman had other gigs going on. While the rest of the cast was getting back into their island roles, Tina was off doing guest spots on Bonanza, Ironside, Mannix, Kojak. I mean, she wasn't just sitting around waiting for a callback. She was living, working, evolving. You know how some people are just always chasing new creative things? That was her. She even wrote children's books and got involved in promoting literacy, which, hello? That's awesome! And speaking of heartfelt moments, when Dawn Wells, Mary Ann, passed away in 2020 from COVID, Tina's reaction was incredibly tender. She said something that really stuck with people. "I will always remember Dawn's kindness to me. We shared in creating a cultural landmark that has continued to bring comfort and smiles to people during this difficult time. Doesn't that just sound like someone who's come full circle with her past? Someone who's found peace in the memories, even the complicated ones? These days, Tina doesn't run from the Ginger legacy. Not anymore. In fact, she seems to embrace it in this soft, graceful way. Like on the 55th anniversary of Gilligan's Island. Yes, 55 years. Can you believe it's been that long? She said, "I want to say how wonderful it is that our show is still on the air after all these years." And then she said something even more personal, like she was talking to every fan directly. "I honestly feel like I have so many friends out there who just love what we did, and what we shared, and the joy we brought." Isn't that such a sweet way to look at your legacy? Not like a label, not like a cage, but like a shared experience. A bond with millions of people who grew up watching you and still carry you in their hearts. And get this, when people ask her about how she wants to be remembered, she doesn't even entertain the idea of being gone. Nope, she says, "My daughter said I had to live 40 years, so I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not thinking about leaving." Isn't that the most defiant, life-loving thing you've ever heard? Like, she's not here for all that obituary talk. She's still here, still living, still smiling, still grateful. So, Tina Louise might have been Ginger Grant to the world, but she's so much more than that. And over the years, it seems like she's come to see that too. It's honestly kind of magical, the way time can soften even the hardest feelings and turn them into something almost sacred. Makes you think, what are we going to look back on one day and see differently? What memories will suddenly shine a little brighter after the dust settles? Because if Tina Louise can go from running away from Ginger to embracing her like an old friend, maybe there's hope for all of us to make peace with the chapters we used to skip. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.